And there we go with the Zander. Yeah, we're still looking for Zander at the Sura, for example. And right here, with this setup, it's working pretty well. Yeah, I'm still on the hunt for Zander, and today I'm at the 7.5 meter hole, and usually, it works quite well here. I'm fishing with a fairly big setup, so not really that light or delicate. Sure, we could also fish here with a light setup to complete another task at the same time. But for now, my main focus is to catch a proper Zander, and ideally not hook into a big catfish, so I don't end up fighting it for half an hour. So right now, I'm fishing with a medium-heavy setup, and boom, there goes the next one already. But unfortunately, still not that big. What's important when fishing for Zander? The time of day is super important when it comes to Zander. Early morning hours and evening hours, those are the key times. Nighttime can be a bit slow, and midday isn't ideal either. So that means we have to be at the spot during those times, and we really need to know how our setup works and how to do the jigging properly. That means, ideally, you test your setup before the right time starts. Get used to the jigging here at the Sura. So, what speed do you need? What weight on your jig head? Because we're dealing with strong current here, which makes it a lot harder for the jigging to work properly. On my setup here, I'm actually jigging with speed 50 right now, so pretty fast, because we're drifting down with the current. I'm positioned below the current, so the river is basically flowing straight at me, and that means I have to retrieve with the current and reel in a bit faster, and there's the next one again. So, casting far is important, and of course, check the minimap. Where exactly are we casting? We want to stay as much as possible right here in the deep hole, in the 7.5 meter hole. And then I do just one turn of the reel, wait a bit, and already we're back into the jigging motion. Down here we've got it. I'm covering it with my hand right now. So, one turn, and another turn, and there we go again, jigging back on. And then another turn, and a pause. We can also see it really well by looking at the line. Every time the line goes a bit slack, the lure is basically hitting the bottom again. And that's exactly how it should be. Right now I'm actually doing about 1.5 turns, and it's working really well like that. So now we're slowly heading into nighttime. It's getting dark, which of course means we've got an increased chance of burbot biting, or even catfish. So we've got to be a bit careful here. On the other hand, it also gives us a chance to complete another task, catching a fish of at least 1 kilogram between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., using ultralight, light, or medium light setups. I'll cast out again, and retrieve again, and I'm back in the jigging motion. But now I'm doing only one turn again, which means much smaller jigs. It always depends on how well it's working. Adjust the speed, the lead has to fit, and the soft bait we're using too. That's always important. If we're using a big soft bait, it sinks much slower, of course, because it floats a bit by itself, so we have to make sure the lead weight matches the soft bait. Right now I'm using the Provoker series. They usually work really well. You can really fish Zander with them nicely, and I've been testing them here for quite a while. 4 kilos was the biggest so far, but 4.5 kilos is our goal. And if you fish a bit in other areas here, you might quickly end up where pike are hanging out, or sometimes Volga Zander, and we don't really want those right now. I'm repositioning a bit, and trying to jig right along the edge of the 7.5 meter hole, way over to the left now. So I'm trying to jig right along that edge, because those edge zones are always interesting for spots. That's where you'll often find Zander, and other predators as well. Yeah, and even after 2 more casts, nothing happens again. That's also got to do with the time. We're in the middle of the night now. So let's use the time to take a look at the setup. Right now I'm fishing fairly heavy, but still using only fluorocarbon. You can also use braided line or mono with a leader, somewhere between 15 and about 25 kilos, that usually fits well. Right now I'm using 22 kilo fluorocarbon, because I recently had some catfish on, so I went a bit heavier today. Still, I'm only using a size 1 hook. That fits quite well weight-wise with the lure. The lure is from the Provoker series, currently using the Provoker 02, which is working really well. But the 01 also works great, as well as the 06 and 08, so these silver or white lures really do work. But also sometimes the yellow ones, the 04 and the 07, they can also be really good for Zander. If you're having trouble getting into the jigging rhythm, test both directions. Jig with the current, or against it. Those are different approaches that might help you find what works best. I'm currently on the lower end, and when I'm heading to a spot, I always look ahead. Where exactly do I want to be? In this case, I want to be in this area, so I move forward, drop anchor, and the current pushes me slightly back. I go a little past where I want to be, reverse. Press K. Turn off the motor with G. Then I can stand up. And then you'll feel a jolt. And that's when you know the anchor's locked in, and you're no longer drifting. As long as you're drifting, you can't jig properly. That's a really important point. Even small left-right drifting makes jigging tricky. Other options here: you can stand at the bottom of the 7-meter hole, or cast from the edge. I showed that in the last video about baitfish fishing. Works great here too. Careful though, you can't walk further at this spot. So if your setup isn't strong enough, the fish in this 7-meter hole can empty your spool. And one more important point when jigging: pay attention to where you're jigging. Like here, in this trench, or in the deep channel. You want to jig through it. Don't jig too sideways, because we've got a shallow area, then a bit deeper, then a really deep drop, and then it rises again. That means in all these sloping areas, you constantly fall out of the jigging motion. You only have this small section to jig in, and then you're out again, and that messes up the jigging. There can also be rocks or deeper holes on the bottom, and just like that, you're out of rhythm again. It's almost 4 a.m. now, so I'm gonna keep going and keep looking for Zander. That's now the ideal time, from around 4 a.m. to maybe 10 a.m., it usually works quite well. Then from around 11 a.m., it starts slowing down, so 11 in the morning or 11 at night, around then it starts dropping off again. And yeah, that's how you fish for Zander, at any water where there are Zander. Whether it's the Volkhov or the Balea, doesn't matter, wherever you feel like, you can fish for Zander in all those places. Theoretically, you can also use a spoon, or the homemade Zander lure, that one works well too. But jigging, with long silver lures, always works really well on Zander. There are tons of other soft baits too, just test a few out, stick to similar color patterns, and it'll usually work quite well. Yeah, that's it for this spot. For the evening hours, I'll just head to the 7-meter hole from land and keep testing. Because my last hole isn't producing anything right now, so I still need to search a bit more. By now I've spent 3 hours across 3 different days, about an hour each, fishing for Zander. And now I'll keep testing this 7-meter hole. So I cast from here into the 7-meter trench, and then we retrieve against the current, and for that, you really need a slightly heavier lead weight, so that the jigging motion works properly again. That's all for Zander fishing. If it helped, leave a thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And then I'll see you in the next video, or in the next live stream. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, tight lines.